Books, books. I like books. I'm gonna read them all. Hi readers, Chris here. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 most anticipated book releases for next month, April 2023. Oh my god, I can't believe it's April. What is happening? As always, these are not all of the books coming out in April. These are just the 10 that I am most interested in, which of course is a lot of fantasy, but there's a couple other surprises thrown in here. I'm not going to talk about these in any sort of order other than by publication date. So let me jump in with my first pick for April, which is going to be Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Now, the reason this one called to me is I actually recently read a Rebecca Ross book, Dreams Lie Beneath, and I liked it. Like, I didn't think it was the best thing I've ever read, but I found it pretty enjoyable, so I'm definitely interested in reading more of her books. So I'm going to read to you what this book is described as on Amazon. And it says, after centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again. But 18-year-old Iris Winnow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door where they vanish, into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. Ooh. So this book is described as Shadow and Bone meets lore, which I think is a super cool premise. I love the fact that this is a fantasy world filled with magic and that we have a character that works at a newspaper. Because working at a newspaper feels like such a mundane task, but it's obviously some sort of magical newspaper going on here, and I think that's really cool, or at least I think it sounds cool. So if you think Divine Rivals sounds cool, it'll be available on April 4th. My second pick for April is going to be another fantasy, Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken. I know she's written other books. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but maybe I'll post a picture of some when I do my editing of this video. But this is supposed to be a brand new book, part of a brand new series, and according to Amazon, it says, born without a trace of magic, Tamsin Lark is no match for the sorceress and hollowers who populate the magical underground of Boston. But when the only parent she's ever known disappears without so much as a goodbye, she has no choice but to join in their cutthroat pursuit of enchanted relics to keep herself and her brother, Cable, alive. 10 years later, rumors are swirling that her guardian found a powerful ring from Arthurian legend just before he vanished. A run-in with her rival, Emery, ignites Tamsin's hope that the ring could free Cable from a curse that threatens both of them. But they aren't the only ones who covet the ring. As word spreads, greedy hollowers start circling, and many would kill to have it for themselves. When Emery's is the last person Tamsin would choose to partner with, she needs all the help that she can get to edge out her competitors in the race for the ring. Together, they dive headfirst into a viper's nest of dark magic, exposing a deadly secret with the power to awaken the ghosts of the past and shatter her last hope of saving her brother. I feel like, I don't know if it's just me and the books I've been reading lately, but I feel like a lot of them have either had to do with Arthurian legend or like kind of related. Like, I'm reading the Raven Boys series. That's like kind of tangentially related, and Legendborn very much related to Arthurian legend. So I feel like this book kind of matches with some of the things I've been reading recently that I've liked. So if Silver in the Bone sounds like something you would like, it'll be available on April 4th. My third pick for April is going to be When You Wish Upon a Star by Elizabeth Lim. I know that there have been a ton of books in this like twisted fairy tale series from Disney. I want to say that this is like the 14th book or something. I have always wanted to read one of them. I just haven't. But I have to say, I have a special place in my heart for Tinkerbell. I love Tinkerbell. I love Tink. So if there was any book that was going to get me to like actually start reading this series, it's going to be this one. So When You Wish Upon a Star says, "Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. So begins the wish that changes everything for Geppetto, for the Blue Fairy, and for a little puppet named Pinocchio. The Blue Fairy isn't supposed to grant wishes in the small village of Pariva, but something about this one awakens some long-buried flicker within. Perhaps it's the hope she senses beneath the old man's loneliness. Or maybe it's the fact that long ago, before she was the Blue Fairy, she was a young woman named Heir from this very village, one with a simple wish, to help others find happiness. Her sister, Ilaria, always teased her for this, for Ilaria had big dreams to leave their sleepy village and become a world-renowned opera singer. The two were close despite their differences. When Ilaria would have given anything to have a fairy grant her wish, Heir didn't believe in the lore for which the village was famous. 40 years later, Heir, now the Blue Fairy, defies the rules of magic to help an old friend. But she's discovered by the Scarlet Fairy, formerly Ilaria, who, amid a decades-long grudge, holds the transgression against her sister. They decide to settle things through a good old-fashioned bet, with Pinocchio and Geppetto's fate hanging in the balance. Will the sisters find a way back to one another? Or is this, like many matters of the heart, a gamble that comes with strings? Ooh, okay. I thought this was going to be about Tinkerbell, but clearly it's about the Blue Fairy from Pinocchio. My bad. But I still love fairies. I love fairies in the Disney movies. So I'll accept that it's Blue Fairy and not Tinkerbell. Clearly I didn't look at that close enough before I picked this one, but that's okay. I'm still interested in this book. So if you are interested in When You Wish Upon a Star, clearly the title of the book should have triggered the song in my brain. My brain is not working at full capacity this month. So if you are interested in When You Wish Upon a Star, it'll be available on April 4th. My fourth pick for April is called Blood Debts by Terry J. Benton-Walker. And I believe that this is a debut story, and I love reading new stories from new authors. So this one says, 30 years ago, a young woman was murdered, a family was lynched, and New Orleans saw the greatest magical massacre in its history. In the days that followed, a throne was stolen from a queen. On the anniversary of these brutal events, Clement and Christina Trudeau, the 16-year-old twin heirs to the powerful, magical, dethroned family, are mourning their father and caring for their sick mother, until, by chance, they discover their mother isn't sick, she's cursed. Cursed by someone on the very magic council their family used to rule, someone who will come for them next. Christina, once a talented and dedicated practitioner of generational magic, has given up magic for good. An ancient spell is what killed their father, and she was the one who cast it. For Clement, magic is his lifeline, a distraction from his anger and pain, even better than the random guys he hooks up with. Christina and Clement used to be each other's most trusted confidant and friend. Now they barely speak. But if they have any hope of discovering who is coming after their family, they'll have to find a way to trust each other and their family's magic, all while solving the decades-old murder that sparked the still rising tensions between the city's magical and non-magical communities. And if they don't succeed, New Orleans may see another massacre or worse. Ooh, okay. I love stories that are set in New Orleans because it's such a place that's just filled with like this rich magic and magical history, like Anne Rice, Charlene Harris. Like there's so many great books that like take place in New Orleans because it's such a magical place, and I think this one sounds really fun. I believe it is a YA fantasy, not an adult fantasy, and you can kind of tell like it sounds like it has some of those, you know, YA fantasy tropes, but I think it sounds like it could be a big hit. So if it sounds like a hit to you, Blood Debts will be available on April 4th. My fifth pick for April is The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester. First of all, what drew me to this book was definitely the cover. I love that cover. I love the green. I love the flowers. I just love the cover. So hopefully what's inside the book is just as great as the cover is. So this book says, with the stroke of a pen, 23-year-old Ivy Radcliffe becomes Lady Hayworth, owner of the sprawling estate on the Yorkshire moors. Ivy has never heard of Blackwood Abbey or of the ancient bloodline from which she's descended. With nothing to keep her in London since losing her brother in the Great War, she warily makes her way to her new home. The Abbey is foreboding, the servants reserved and suspicious, but there is a treasure waiting behind locked doors, a magnificent library. Despite cryptic warnings from the staff, Ivy feels irresistibly drawn to its dusty shelves, where familiar works mingle with strange esoteric texts. And she senses something else in the library too, a presence that seems to have a will of its own. Rumors swirl in the village about the Abbey's previous owners, about ghosts and curse, and an enigmatic manuscript at the center of it all. And as events grow more sinister, it'll be up to Ivy to uncover the library's mysteries in order to reclaim her own story before it vanishes forever. Ooh, that does sound really good. It sounds really good to me. It sounds like this takes place like in the events maybe following World War I. So it's fantasy, it's historic. I love the setting and like an abbey. I was a big Downton Abbey fan, so love the whole setting about this book. I love everything about it. It sounds right up my alley. If it sounds like something that is right up your alley, The Last Heir to Blackwood Library will be available on April 4th. My sixth pick for April is something a little bit different, and that is The Haunting of Alejandra by Castro. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. This book is more on the like horror thriller sides of things than fantasy, but I think it sounds super interesting. So this book says, Alejandra no longer knows who she is. To her husband, she is a wife, and to her children, a mother. To her own adoptive mother, she is a daughter. But they cannot see who Alejandra has become, a woman struggling with a darkness that threatens to consume her. Nor they can see what Alejandra sees. In times of despair, a ghostly vision appears to her, the apparition of a crying woman in a ragged white gown. When Alejandra visits a therapist, she begins exploring her family's history, starting with the biological mother she never knew. As she goes deeper into the lives of the women in her family, she learns that heartbreak and tragedy are not the only things she has in common with her ancestors, because the crying woman was with them too. She is La Llorona, the vengeful and murderous mother of Mexican legend, and she will not leave until Alejandra follows her mother, her grandmother, and all the women who came before her into darkness. But Alejandra has inherited more than just pain. She has inherited the strength and the courage of her foremothers, and she will have to summon everything they have given her to banish La Llorona forever. Now, I first heard of La Llorona in that movie, whose name is escaping me at the minute. I'm sure someone knows what I'm talking about. So that was like my first introduction to the myth of La Llorona, and I don't know much about it other than I know it's like a Mexican legend, Mexican folklore. So I think that this, again, has the potential to be a really cool book. And once again, look at that cover, freaking amazing. So if this book sounds like it might be amazing to you, The Haunting of Alejandra will be available on April 18th. My 7th pick for April is back to fantasy with A Hunger of Thorns by Lili Wilkinson. And I think we have another case of a book with a super cool cover. So this one says, Maud is the daughter of witches. She spent her childhood running wild with her best friend Odette, weaving stories of girls who slayed dragons and saved princes. Then Maud grew up and lost her magic and her best friend. These days, magic is toothless, reduced to glamour patches and psychic energy drinks found in supermarkets and shopping malls. Odette has always hungered for forbidden, dangerous magic, and 2 weeks ago she went searching for it. Now she's missing and everyone says she's dead. Everyone except Maud. Storytelling has always been Maud's gift, so she knows all about girls who get lost in the woods. She's sure she can find Odette inside the ruins of Sicklehurst, an abandoned power plant over an ancient magical forest. A place no one seems to remember is there. The danger is, no one knows what remains inside Sicklehurst either, and every good story is sure to have a monster. I think that this book sounds like it could either be super fun or it could be really bad. I don't know. But the whole power plant thing got me. I don't think I've ever heard of a fantasy story that features a power plant. I feel like that is such like a real world modern thing. So to hear that appearing in this YA fantasy story, really makes me curious. I have no idea how big of a part of the story it is, but I'm interested. So if A Hunger of Thorns sounds interesting to you, it'll be available on April 18th. My 8th pick for April is going to be Star Splitter by Matthew J. Kirby. I feel like it's been a while since I've read a good science fiction book, and I am looking for one to read, so maybe this one will be the one. So Star Splitter, this book says, the year is 2199. Deep space exploration is a reality, and teleportation is routine. But this time, something seems to have gone very, very wrong. 17-year-old Jessica Mathers wakes up in a lander that's crashed onto the surface of Carver 1061c, a desolate post-extinction planet 14 light years from Earth. The planet she was supposed to be viewing from a ship orbiting far above. The corridors of the empty lander are covered in bloody handprints. The machines are silent and dark. And outside, in the alien dirt, there are fresh graves carefully marked with names she doesn't recognize. Now Jessica must unravel the mystery of the destruction all around her and the questionable intentions of a familiar stranger. Ooh, I think this sounds really cool, and honestly, just reading this, I feel like this would make a really great movie. Like, don't you? Someone wakes up on an alien planet, has no idea how they got there. There's bloody handprints and graves, and I don't know where the stranger comes in, but I think this sounds really cool, or at least has the potential to be really cool. So if Star Splitter sounds interesting to you, it'll be available on April 25th. My 9th pick for April is going to be In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune. I've only read one T.J. Klune book so far, The House in the Cerulean Sea. I absolutely loved it, and I've been wanting to read more from him ever since. But he keeps putting out new books, and I keep falling behind. But this is his latest book, and it is described as... In a strange little home built into the branches of a grove of trees lives 3 robots. Fatherly inventor android Giovanni Larson, a pleasantly sadistic nurse machine, and a small vacuum desperate for love and attention. Victor Lawson, a human, lives there too. They're a family, safe and hidden. The day Victor salvages and repairs an unfamiliar android labeled Hap, H-A-P, he learns of a shared dark past between Hap and Geo, a past spent hunting humans. When Hap unwillingly alerts robots from Geo's former life to their whereabouts, the family is no longer hidden and safe. Geo is captured and taken back to his old laboratory in the City of Electric Dreams. So together, the rest of Vic's assembled family must journey across an unforgiving and otherworldly country to rescue Geo from decommission, or worse, reprogramming. Along the way to save Geo, amid conflicted feelings of betrayal and affection for Hap, Vic must decide for himself, can he accept love with strings attached? Inspired by the adventures of Pinocchio and like Swiss Family Robinson meets Wall-E, In the Lives of Puppets is a masterful standalone fantasy adventure from the beloved author who brought you The House in the Cerulean Sea and Under the Whispering Door. Okay, wow. I hope that this delivers, because if it is as good as it sounds, it could be something really fantastic. And I have no idea why, but for some reason, reading the description of of this book reminds me of The Brave Little Toaster. I don't know if anyone remembers that movie from the 90s. If you're as old as me, you might. But it's giving me Brave Little Toaster vibes, because that movie was about a bunch of appliances, like, traveling together. And that's the kind of vibes I'm getting here. So I hope that I love this book as much as I love The Brave Little Toaster. If it sounds like something you might love, In the Lives of Puppets will be available on April 25th. Finally, that brings me to my 10th pick for April, which is technically not in chronological order, but I wanted to stick this one at the end, and that is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Because technically this book has been quote-unquote released previously. This is one of these secret projects by Sanderson, so if you were part of his club, like, you got advanced copies of this book. However, this book is actually coming out in, like, mass market as a hardcover, so I'm putting it on my list because it's one of the books that I'm most excited about, because I did not read an advanced copy. I didn't get it in advance like some people did, so this will be my first chance to read it. If it's your first chance to read it, then this book is about Tess. The only life Tess has known is on her island home in an emerald green ocean. It's been a simple one, with the simple pleasures of collecting cups brought by sailors from faraway lands, and listening to stories told by her friend Charlie. But when his father takes him on a voyage to find a bride and disaster strikes, Tress must stow away on a ship and seek the sorceress and deadly midnight sea. Amid these spore oceans where pirates abound, can Tress leave her simple life behind and make her own place, sailing a sea where a single drop of water means instant death? That's all. That's all it says about this book. I believe from people that I've heard that have read it, they have liked it. I don't know how it compares to his other books, so if you are someone that did read this one in advance, let me know in the comments how you think it compares to, like, you know, The Mistborn, or I'm not as familiar with some of his other works as I'm sure some of you are, but I'm getting there. I'm making this year the year of Brandon Sanderson. I'm starting to read more of his stuff so I can get myself caught up, and I'll be talking about the next book of his I'm reading very, very, very soon. But until then, if you are excited for Tress of the Emerald Sea, it'll be available on April 4th in hardcover wherever books are sold. There you have it. Those are all my picks for April. And now I want to know from you, what are you most excited for in April? Was it something I mentioned, something I didn't mention? And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, you were rewarded with a Roscoe Rufus. Oh, thank you, Roscoe. Thank you. Yes, you're a very good boy. As always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish stuff and more furry friends coming your way soon. All right, everyone, happy reading. Thank you, Roscoe. Thank you.